Good evening. Welcome to this week's Freedom Thinking Community Group. It's strange to be here at the beginning.
You got to give the date.
The date today is
20th of October, 2025.
You know what you're doing at the beginning.
Okay.
I'm never here.
You're never here now. So my name's Dave Ellery. This is
I do know my name, Jenny Ellery.
This is my wife, Jen. Yeah, thank you all for being here. Thank you all so much for being here. And thank you for being patient with us over the last few weeks. We really, really appreciate that. This is Freedom Thinking Community Group. It's a via donation event. Thank you so much to everybody who donated. Thank you so much to everybody who donates. We're so grateful for it. Every time we get a donation, it lifts our hearts. We're just like, oh, thank you. And when we get a lovely message alongside it, we're so grateful. You know, we put these things out and we don't know who we reach. Occasionally you just get a message saying, oh, thank you for that. And we haven't got a clue who the heck you are. But just please understand, we're so grateful that you messages, that you watch, that you follow, that you share, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff, or just be here. You know, we're so grateful. So thank you all so very much. We say this every week, like, this would be crap without you lot. It's crap trying to, thankfully we've never actually had to do it, have we?
Not to no one.
Since 2015 we started this, so it's 10 years old is this community group. And there's never been one time nobody's turned up. So we're really grateful to that. There's been times when we've thought nobody's going to turn up, but it hasn't happened. So thank you all for being here. And thank you all over the years for your support. Yeah, we've got a couple of events coming up. Do you want to talk a little bit about them?
So we've got one event I know about in November.
Start with that one.
Which is the weekend of the 20th. 2 days down in Mundon, which is near Malden in Essex. But I've put the details on the WhatsApp group already, and I'll give more details. But anyone listening in catch up, please email us and I can send you the details.
Cool. Yeah, and anybody who would like to be added to the Freedom Thinking WhatsApp group, it's not one where we encourage people to communicate, but you know, on the group, it's something where we just kind of put messages out, let people know what's going on, let people know links to these calls. We send out the links to these calls or any other webinars. Any other webinars that we do. We prefer to do it like that because we got so heavily Zoom bombed. You know, Wendy certainly was on. I remember Wendy's face when some of that was on, and I think Andrew was on and Colin Cath were on when we got Zoom bombed, and some of them were horrific. So we had to kind of reorganize ourselves and restructure ourselves. So one of the things we did was we created a WhatsApp and a Telegram group where people ask us, can you just put me on the WhatsApp Telegram group, send us your number, and we'll put it on, and then people get access to the meeting IDs and Zoom calls and all that kind of stuff. And anything else that's going on, we just let people know. We try not to hammer it. Well, it's not difficult for us not to hammer it, is it? We don't hammer it. But yeah, it's quicker and easier for us. And yeah, most people on here are on it. Yeah, if you wish to make a donation, if you are watching in the catch up, look in the link below. In the link below, there's a few methods of giving a donation. The best way for us is friends and family PayPal. If you can do that, that's the best for us. We don't get any charges and get all the money. Anything else? Cool. All right.
I was going to say, you mentioned that we've got somebody new, Nicola, tonight, but it's also nice to remember, like, there's always something else we can hear. So it's not that one person's new. Like, if we can all listen as if we're listening for the first time, we're more likely to hear something new.
Yeah.
It's very easy to think, oh, I've heard that story before, or I know that. And as soon as we do that, we switch ourselves off to hearing deeper. And I think one of the things I've loved about the Three Principles conversation is that it's a very, it was described to me as a very narrow conversation. Like, there's not a huge amount of content, but it's so deep, and the depth to which that we see it in our lives can just go on and on and on. And I know that Sydney Banks, who's the man who first had the insight and sought into this, the people that spent time around him said he was the guy that evolved the most in the time. So he has the experience, and then he continued to deepen and learn. And so it's nice to all of us to remember that we're all beginners, because we're kind of looking into something that is infinite, vast. And I think that's a nice way to listen, because then we're more of a beginner's mind. I think they say in Buddhism, or listening like children do. Like, I'm loving watching Lucia. She is so open to learning, and she'll, we're always questioning, do you understand that, and trying to explain, but she never really thinks she knows something. She's always open to learning something more. So yeah, it's nice to sometimes have somebody that is new to this conversation, this way of sharing. But it's good for all of us to kind of go back to basics and kind of get quiet again.
Yeah, I agree. It can be really easy for us to get caught up in what we think we know. Personal insights or things that we've heard or read or been told, and how that little bit of knowledge can actually be quite a big wall. So in many respects, knowledge is considered knowledge is power. But in a lot of respects, knowledge is also what trips us up. In the what I think I know category, that can be quite often the biggest trip up, the biggest things that trip us up in our lives. So I don't really know where to start tonight, but I suppose really this is really a conversation about life. About the nature of life. Not so much about what's going on in life. We can see that. We can see what's going on in life. We can experience that. We can feel that. But this is more a conversation about life itself. That is applicable to all. And it's through this conversation, it's through an awakening and awareness that was gleaned through listening to a man named Sydney Banks, who at the time I was listening to him, he wasn't speaking about three principles, but he did speak about three principles. I don't personally tend to speak about three principles as three principles, because they're really all the same thing. But these three just to kind of create a little bit of background and a little bit of understanding, a little bit of knowledge. The three principles that Sid spoke of were universal principles. Universal principles that are applicable to everyone on earth. Universal principles that nobody can really argue with. Universal principles that aren't a technique. Universal principles that don't require you to do anything. Universal principles that you don't attain. You already are them. Fundamental, pre-existing principles. Principles that precede human beings. They come before humanity. Principles that are endowed within everything, not just human beings. And the principles that Sid Banks spoke of were a universal mind. Everybody, every single person has mind, is mind. Universal consciousness. Everybody is conscious. They are consciousness. They are the awareness of life itself. And universal thought. Again, principles that apply to everyone. No arguments, nothing to argue about, nothing to debate, The debate is born through thought, one of the principles, which is born of mind, one of the principles, which is experienced via consciousness, one of the principles. Well, those principles, those three principles, are really life itself. They are attributes. The attributes of life itself. Life is a conscious, creative, infinite state. That's what life is. Life is a conscious, creative, infinite state. Mind, consciousness, thought. And this conversation is an exploration into that. And how these principles create illusions. And these illusions are the things that we really suffer in this lifetime. They're really the things that we suffer. They're really the things that create our suffering. It's the way we create joy too. It's the way everything is experienced. I often say this, I say this pretty much every single week, you know, I desperately wanted to change my own life, and people come and work with us, and people come to this conversation because they'd like to have a shift in their life. Now, these people could be in a really wonderful state. Don't get me wrong, you know, there can be people in a really hard state, a difficult state, a really troubled state, but there's also people in really beautiful states who come and listen to this, but they're still intrigued within themselves. What more can I see about life? Can I have another shift? Can I deepen my awareness? Can I hear something that sets off a reaction within myself? That is like a catalyst within me that gives me the opportunity to see something new and different. And like Jen just said just before, you know, there is no end to our capacity to see in depth into life. And that really, to me, is what awakening is. And this is a conversation about awakening. It's about starting to see life from a different perspective. When we start to integrate the natural laws into our everyday life, when we start to become aware of these natural laws, and I say natural laws because they're not man-made. As consciousness is not man-made, thought, the power of thought is not man-made, mind is not man-made. This precedes man. It comes before mankind. It comes before physicality.
Sorry.
Yeah, I can turn that off.
Someone was trying to join,
Sorry.
so I'll send in links.
No silence. And it's been beautiful for Jen and I. We've had the opportunity to travel to all different corners of the world and share with many different people, different languages, speaking through translators and stuff like that. And we've had the opportunity to see this conversation go into all these demographics and people, pennies to start to drop for people. And as the penny drops, a life changes. As a penny drops, a life changes. This is an exploration not into outside of ourselves. And this is an exploration of within ourselves. Point to my heart, point to the body. I'm talking about within experience. As far as we can look out into the depths of space, we can look inward. Infinitely. This is a conversation about discovering who and what we really are. This is a discovery of life. Seeker. Where's Seeker gone? Seeker, could you read that poem now? Oh no, you're cooking. No, don't bother. You're cooking. Can you? Yeah, do it. Tyler. Washing hands. Sorry, love. This just seems like a really nice time to read that. Is that right?
Yeah.
This is, just for context, this is my sister's bit of writing. My sister started receiving messages in 2017, and she just writes them down. She'll be driving, pulls over, writes them down, carries on driving, and most of them she has no awareness she's written. She'll just find a piece of paper with scribbled writing on it, and then she'll go, "Wow, look at that!" And it's a bit of writing that came through her. Seeker, I deeply admire your ability to spell check, but and correct the spelling on it all, because that's not one of Lisa's strengths. But this is a message that Lisa got. So, Seeker, would you just mind reading it, love? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an honor. All credit goes to Lisa and to you, Dave and Jenny, for sharing this.
And you for writing it,
Uh,
printing it.
the poem goes as, you don't need to fear anything in this life, beautiful soul. You, darling child, are made of the elements of the universe. We made you into a perfect creation. Your task is to realize that you have life. You have the gift of materialization from a formless universe. You are the exact image that you seek. Sorry, you are the exact magic that you seek. You are the perfection of the flower you so graciously marvel. You are the fast-flowing river and the sun in the sky. You are the invisible into the visible. You are a dance, a play on an incredible stage. Darling child, be with your gift, be with your creation. You are built for this life. Every rhythmic heartbeat, every single breath you breathe is a gift. You get to experience life. Breathe, see, listen. You never need to fear this life because you are life itself. An incredible creation made from the material, magic, and majesty that makes all things. You are loved. Written by Lisa Sophia on the 31st of October, 2022.
Thank you, Seeker, love. Thank you, love. A bit of writing talks about discovering that we are alive, which seems like a little innocuous, pointless conversation. We all know we're alive. But a few of us are starting to wake up and realize what that means. Actually, I think many of us now are starting to wake up and realize what that actually means. I asked Lise, who is that we that made us into a perfect creation? Who's that, Lise? And she went, I don't know. She doesn't know who that is. But this is a conversation about life, about living. What is life? What is life? Is it some random event where some chemicals were in a primordial pond and a bit of lightning struck it and created a single-celled organism from which we all emerged? Or is it something that really is much deeper? Or is it possibly both? This is a conversation really that is getting to the heart of who and what we really are. And as we start to get closer in awareness to who and what we really are, what really isn't starts to collapse. And when we start to notice the collapse, it's usually through noticing that our life's got nicer. our life's got easier. It's not something we can create with our thoughts. It's not something we reconcile up here. It comes via moments of transformation. And those moments of transformation have been called over the years revelation, insight, epiphanies. When just for a moment, what's real is experienced. And when people get these moments of reality experience, true reality experience, what they generally experience is a deep sense of love. And that love is something that has the power to cleanse the belief system that's held people in some kind of stasis. It happens in varying degrees within all kinds of people. There's no right and there's no wrong in it. There's nothing to attain, by the way. Everything we're speaking of, everybody already is. Okay, so this isn't like some kind of thing where you're going to be given anything or you're going to find something that was never already yours. What we start to discover is we start to discover deeper aspects of life, our own being. And as we start to discover ourselves, we start to discover others. You start to realize that what lies inside me lies inside everyone, inside everything. And when you start to come back to the singularity, and this is very much about a singularity conversation, when you start to come back to the singularity of life, you realize that fear can only exist in duality. And fear creates all our suffering. But fear always requires there to be something to pin fear up on, something outside that person, Donald Trump, Israel, Gaza.
Wendy was having a nice
Money.
time then.
Sorry, Wendy. That person over there, the dark, the past, the future. Okay, fear requires there to be it requires two to dance. Me and and that over there, me and this over there, and me and you, and
You're afraid of your character.
I
You're
was-
afraid of yourself.
yeah, I was afraid of myself, but myself was a thing outside of my truth, out of genuine truth.
You created like
it
a
was
separate self.
Yeah, I'd created a separate self, which is what the ego is. It's a separate identity. It's the appearance of a separate identity. It's a little me that isn't the sun in the sky and the whatever it says in the poem, the fast flowing river, the stars and the sun. It's the ego is the experience of the feeling of separation. It's an experience created by the mind. It's an experience created from belief, which is an experience created from thought. So this is a conversation around the simplicity of life. How simple can we go? Because the simpler we go, the closer to truth we become. The simpler we go, the closer to truth, the closer to source self we realize. Like I say, this isn't something you can intellectually figure out. The intellect is secondary because the intellect is creation. It's created. but you create it, which would make you creator.
I think, and sometimes I think it's nice. I think something about learning the principles, but for me and from what I've seen, is that we can start to have the intellect can get a sense of something and have an understanding of something. And it's in that understanding, I think it often then drops from being a concept to us feeling it on a deeper level. But I liked the fact that although so much of what was spoken about with the principles felt like it went over my head, especially when I used to listen to Sid, it just felt like it was going over my head, but I'd sort of sit in a nice feeling. There was also like a practical element of you are the creator of your experience. I'd been in therapy for 10 years at the point of coming across the principles, and it'd all been about looking at the content of my mind, looking at my past, trying to figure out why I was experiencing all the struggles I was experiencing.
And how you're going to move forward in the future.
So it was all content based. And then suddenly the principles was like, oh, hang on a minute. This is how the content's created. You are gifted this powerful force to create reality. It's within you. It's through mind, thought, and consciousness. You create reality. You create experience. It comes from within you. It's not that experience is given to you or you're at the mercy of experience. It's like it literally is a creation. And I think that shift initially, for me, I went from being a victim of my past and a victim of my circumstance and a victim of people and a victim of everything to recognizing like that there's a power. Like I went from victim state to like, wow, there's a power. There's something within me, and it describes how the false self is created. You know, you have a thought, it looks true and real, you believe it, there you go, you have a belief. But it's not true and real. It's a potential, it's a creation. So many of the years that I spent in therapy were looking at the creation and trying to help me deal with my creation or make my creation look a bit better, cope with my creation. And then suddenly it's like, oh no, what if we go before that? And it was described to us, you know, let's go upstream. Let's go upstream from experience. What creates experience? Why do you feel like you feel now? And it was the simplest thing. And I remember as I started to kind of shift, it was like all of my creations and beliefs started to become liquid and kind of, I felt at sea because I didn't really know what to hold on to anymore. But within that, I feel like I touched on a space, and so many people have experienced it even before ever coming across this conversation, where they just fall into themselves and they just have a beautiful feeling, but it's not attached to anything. And it's like that feeling is the life stuff. You know, when anyone touches on it, they will always use words like love or peace, stillness. And when we know that more to be our true nature, and that all of the other stuff is what comes and goes, I loved that we were encouraged when I went on so many different trainings in that first few years after coming across this, but it was like encouraged, go away and see against your own experience. Don't believe what you're being told. Go away and see against your own experience. Is this true? Is it true that you can be in a situation where usually you'd feel really uncomfortable and you've always blamed that situation and feel completely calm and at peace? Is there you're doing something you absolutely normally love, but you're in turmoil inside? Like you go away and play with experience, you start to see that the link or the cord between outside and inside gets cut. There isn't that cause and effect that we always thought there was. And the more that we see that, the less we feel victimized and the less we feel thrown around by life. But I also see that there's gifts in getting lost. Like I love listening to Lisa's writings because she's somebody who in 2014 came across the principles, just had this huge shift, and then she just started living in a completely different way. And the way that she shows up with people change around Lisa, like unbelievable. People sort of seek her out to speak to. And she's not sort of listened to, the person she listened to was someone called Dr. Dickon Bettinger, she's not repeated his words and told all of his stories. She woke up to something in 2014 that kind of came alive in her, and now she goes out and she's just, that's what she is with people, and she's continually learning herself. But
Yeah, her awakening actually took place at about 8 o'clock that Saturday night.
yeah, when she wasn't even in front of me.
When she was just me and her sat down. Yeah.
But I think I felt like the gift within the principles was like handing back to every single person you are your best teacher, you are your best guide. You don't have to keep going out there. You don't have to keep going out there. Like what you seek is there. Minus all the stories of your failings and your triumphs and all those things, minus all of that, what you're looking for is already there. It's already part of it, it's you, and it's unchanging. And I honor the principles and Sydney Banks because it was through that I got to find that place within me. But I know that there's times when I've worked with people or just had conversations with friends and shifts have happened and there's been no conversation around the three principles. Sometimes you're not even talking about anything in particular. I remember my hairdresser saying to me once, I don't know what it is, but whenever you or your auntie, my auntie was on the first course with me, whenever you two come in to have your hair done, I just feel better afterwards. She goes, I don't know what it is. And I feel like you get to live in a more honest, like beautiful feeling more of the time. And then when you're in that space, when you're around other people, people pick up on that because there's that resonance, that frequency that people are drawn to. And I know that if you're in if you are in a music shop with loads of guitars and you pluck one string, all of the other strings of the same note or same chord will vibrate at the same sound. And I
Same
think
frequency.
same
Yeah.
frequency. And I thought that's what happens, like our frequency changes. So then the ripple effect of seeing this for ourselves is amazing because people notice it, people feel it. But it doesn't come from like an intellectual understanding, but the intellect can be used to listen and hear, and like it's not an enemy of it.
No, certainly not.
I think there's been times where I've listened and maybe had a concept, but that concept has then sort of been the way to then feeling something deeper or seeing something deeper. So there isn't any blocks to hearing or learning this.
No, there isn't. And you can't, when it comes to things like insight, revelation, things like that, you can't create them with your thoughts. You can't create them in the intellect. They're just things that spontaneously happen. And the beautiful thing is, I had no idea. I had no idea it was available. When I came across Sid, I was in quite a privileged position because I hadn't really done any background research into any of it. So I just came to it completely fresh. I had no idea what to expect. So I wasn't looking for anything. But then what I found transformed my life in a moment. But what I found was within me. I can tell you exactly what I heard in the video because I remember. What I heard was, you think it's real. This was Sid speaking to therapists. You think it's real. It's not real. You think it's real. That was Sid speaking to the spiritual nature of reality. We are given the gift to create reality, but we're also given the gift to forget. So in the forgetting, we get to get full on, nose to tail experience. And that can be challenging at times throughout our lives. And at some times of our lives, it can be so challenging that we don't wish to be here anymore. For many people. And for others, it can get so challenging they seek help. For some people, they drink, take drugs, take pharmaceuticals. You know, it can be, this is this experience thing, this ability to create reality. And when I'm talking about reality, I'm talking about the experience we're all experiencing right now. I don't know how many faces I can see on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 or so people on here right now. You know, there's 14 different versions of this conversation going on right now. 15, 16. Okay, I can guarantee that Neil isn't having the same experience as Wendy, and Seeker's having a very different experience to John, and Dan and Bex are both having a different experience, and I've no idea what the hell Nick's thinking. But we're all having this very different experience. But if the experience itself came from this conversation, if it came from this, my words or Jen's words or the laptop or the Zoom call, if it came from there, if the experience was truly coming from outside of us, there would be no conversation around it required, because we'd all be experiencing the same experience. But I know that that's not the way it works. I know that everybody on this screen is having a very different experience. And if you're watching this in catch up, you are having a different experience to the 14, 15, 16 people on this call. No two people hear the same call. They filter it through their experiences. They filter it through what they think they already know. And in doing so, they create an impression. And that impression is their reality. That's what they encounter as their experience of life. It's what they encounter as their experience of this call. This is really a conversation about, like Jen said, severing the imaginary umbilical cord between outside and inside. Cause, effect. That happens, I feel like this. You said that, you made me feel like this. What happened to me in the past is why I am like I am today. It's severing that imaginary cord. Okay, the cord doesn't exist. It appears to exist. It appears like external reality is something outside of us. But external reality is really, that we experience, is really an experience from inside ourselves. That's why no two people on earth see the same earth. Every single human being walks in their own world on the same planet. There are 8 billion versions of reality, if it's true. Like there's 8 billion people on this planet. There's 8 billion versions of reality walking on this earth, and everybody thinks their reality is the truth. The real reality. Everybody thinks they're seeing the real world. But we're creating it. We're creating it moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment from them. We're creating before we're born. We're creating before we're conceived. You continue to create, and I say this from my own personal experiences, you continue to create an experience beyond death, beyond the dropping of the leaving of the physical body. There is no end. There's a continuum, and it's a continuous experience. Everything, if you look, everything is an experience. Hi, Rach. Everything is an experience. Everything is experience. This right here, right now, is an experience. 17 versions on this call right now. All having a different experience. Why? Because we're creating different. Why? Because we believe different. Why? Because we think differently. And it's through, in my experience, it's through the discovery of the power of thought, and how thought is the thing that really creates our experience of life. It really creates how we see the world. It really creates how Jen appears to me, how I appear to Jen, how Lucia appears to me, and how I appear to Lucia, and everything, how that lamp over there that you can't see appears, and the blind and the curtains, and this conversation, how everything appears. It appears to us as we think, as we believe. And in scripture, in the book of Thomas, it says, Yeshua spoke, Jesus said, it's done unto you as you believe. For Nicola, this is legal asterisk. I am not religious, but I have a deep respect for people who discover truth. And I believe Jesus was a man who tried to help us understand life. I don't think he necessarily taught religion. I think he taught life. He taught love. He tried to show us in the direction of how can we create a more beautiful world? How do you think you could create a more beautiful world for you all to live? Love each other. Be kind to each other. Don't fuck one another over. Just be kind to one another. Be kind to yourself. Gain awareness. Where is this God's kingdom you speak of, Yeshua? The kingdom is within you. God's kingdom is within you. Where do people discover God? When people have a realization of the divine, where does it take place? Say, God, I'm not talking personally. I'm not talking about a man. I'm not talking about any being. I'm talking about the fundamental essence of everything that is pure awareness, that knows everything, that is infinitely intelligent, that has no comprehension of name. There's nothing it needs to name itself for, because there's nothing but it. Singularity, the non-duality of life. That we are all a creation of, therefore we all are. I and the Father are one. There's another thing he said. I and the Father are one. I know Crystal speaks of herself as I like. I know John, I've heard John refer to himself as I, and Joseph and Ange. We all refer to ourselves as I. I and the Father are one. I and that is the creator of everything are the same thing. I is that before identity. That I in that context is describing, in my interpretation of those words, is describing life. I can stick anything onto the end of I. I like, I dislike, I am this, I am that. And go on to the infinitum in that direction. But it's starting to gain awareness that there is this creative force within us, and we've taken it for granted. We've not really paid that much attention to the power of thought, the power of mind, the power of consciousness. How this force creates our everyday moment-to-moment reality that we think is real. You could listen to this conversation one day and go, well, that was a crock of shit, and listen to the next day and go, well, I actually heard something in that this time. But you've listened to exactly the same conversation. So your reality can change. It's fluid. You meet somebody 1 minute and you go, oh, do you know, I got a really bad feeling about that person. I don't like them. And if some of us can be really stubborn and go, no, why know my mind when I've made up my mind? That's it. I don't like those people because I'm so deeply intuitive. No, they're fucked. Never going near them again. But if we are humble enough not to believe the first thought that we have, then we have the opportunity to think again. And quite often you'll meet somebody you don't particularly like, you don't really feel like you gel with, only to kind of fall in love with them and go, gosh, they're pretty cool. Reality is fluid because it's an experience. You couldn't know the walls the bricks, the stones, the mountains, the earth, each other, the trees, the sun, the moon without the experience. It's only via the experience that they're experienced as a reality. Some people are terrified of the sun, lathering themselves up continuously. Some people adore the sun and they lie in the sun, taking it all in. Some people are petrified of buttons. Some people laugh when they hear that. But it's a really beautiful thing to start to wake up and sever that imaginary umbilical cord, because suddenly you go from victim to creator. Creator is what we have always been. It's not a nice idea. It's not some kind of whimsical, nice thing to believe. It's a fact. We've always created our own experience of life. Now, more often than not, it's a fact we forgot that. For some reason, it's a fact that went unnoticed. But this is a conversation about reminding. It's a reminder for all of us, Jen and myself included, that we are creating our own experience of life moment to moment. It's a reminder that the victim that we have played is an illusion. It's made up.
You always said you saw that, like one of the moments where, with my nephew, he went from when he was very little, like most young kids, they don't really take things too personally. So like his sisters could like take stuff off him or like break his stuff and there'd be nothing. But you said you saw the moment where he'd bought this amazing castle and his sister ran down the stairs and just like booted it. And then he just like, he was silent for a minute and then just exploded. And he was like, no, and you bad boy. And he said, it's like you saw him go, that happened. I feel like this. You did this to me. And like
You've made me feel this bad.
And you can see that it looks like it's logical. Like I was feeling fine, you did that, and now I've got this feeling. You've made me feel like this. So you can see what an innocent misunderstanding it is, and how all of us at some point are going to have gone from being a more expansive kind of life's not personal state to life becomes very personal, and we start blaming things for why we feel like we do. But many times before that moment, we'd seen his stuff just being taken from him, stuff get broken, and there wasn't really any attachment to it. So it seems to be here on earth, we do start getting attached to things and take things personally, and we forget that actually the experience within us, like we're always free to experience anew. The first thing that pops in isn't what we're stuck with. Like there's this continual flow of new thought available.
New potential.
But we get stuck and hold on to. And I feel like you come across this conversation and you start noticing yourself, like maybe coming up with the same thing you've always come up with in the same situation, and then something else comes in. You start handling yourself different. You start having different conversations in relationships. Suddenly you're able to have the sort of conversations where normally you take it really personally and you get defensive, but you're like, oh no, I can really listen to this person. Like there's so many incredible kind of implications to starting to notice, what is life? Where does it come from? What is my part to play in this? Is it true? And then again, you see it against your own experience. Like, can somebody else put a feeling in me? Well, I know as a teenager, my mum spent a lot of time trying to make me feel good about myself, giving me compliments, telling me how wonderful I was, and and then I'd see therapists that would try and tell me like the potential I had, but no one could put a feeling in me. They couldn't change my experience to one of a more positive. And then I know that for some people, they can have, like when we did this in schools, we were sharing with 10 and 11-year-olds with something called iHeart, which is the 3 principles for kids. And they were saying, well, of course, other people being horrible to you makes you feel bad. So then you got one of them to start shouting insults at you. And you're like, but you could see like you didn't feel bad. They thought it was the best thing ever. But
your haircut's stupid. I'm like, that's not bullying. Come on, give it to me. I said, don't swear because your teacher's here. But go on, give me your worst. And he's like, your glasses look stupid. I'm like, come on, come on. No, I mean it. Give me some hard. Give it to me hard. And they're like, can I ever go? Can I ever go and go for it? And he's all these things, weren't there? And then this one kid, he said to me, can I ever go? I said, yeah, go on then. And he went, I'm going to kill your dog. I'm like, ooh, that was a good effort, pal. That was a good effort. But those kids, didn't they? They kind of they were there going, what? So you weren't bothered us saying that? No, I wasn't bothered by you saying it. It didn't. Those words genuinely, they were making me laugh. You were making me laugh. You weren't hurting me. The words couldn't hurt me.
You
And
see,
that was kind of
yeah.
revolutionary for the kids, wasn't it?
Well, they started to see there has to be something going on within us to give us an experience of feeling hurt or not hurt, feeling offended or not offended. There has to be some missing piece. And we're pointing out to them, well, it's the way that you think about it. It's whether you believe it. Do you take it on as your own? And when you see that thought is the missing piece of the experience that you're having, it frees you up from being at the mercy of other people. And I think that's such a freeing thing. And like one of the kids described, he's only like 10 years old, and he said, it's like I've been lost in a maze and you've shown me the way out of the maze.
The walls have just fallen down and I've just walked out.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
And then one of the other children said she realized that bullies didn't define you. Somebody bullying you doesn't define you. And she was someone who was almost an elective mute. She didn't speak in school, so her friends hadn't heard her speak before.
Yeah, this class had never heard her speak. And what year were they in? They were in the leaving year, weren't they?
Yeah, 10, 11 year olds.
Yeah, 10 and 11. The class had never heard her speak. And then look, it was great for us because the headmaster was in the room at the time, and this girl put her hand up, and none of us noticed, but the headmaster did. He went, "Can I just, can everybody just be really quiet?" What was she called?
I can't remember her name.
Was she a little?
I can't
She was
remember.
she was an Indian girl, wasn't she? She put her hand up and she said this thing, and it was so wise, and everybody was like, the mouths had dropped, not because of the wisdom, but the fact she'd actually spoken. I've never heard her speak. That's what her voice sounds like. It was wonderful, wasn't it? Like this kid suddenly realized she didn't have to be like that. She could be something different.
And the other one was saying, it's not assembly that makes me nervous. So now I can put my hand up in assembly. And it's like just simple things.
Yeah.
And you can see like some of the insights that will come to us might not look like big things, but actually in our life, they're massive. To suddenly realize that if somebody is being bullying towards you, that doesn't define you. That's a cool thing to know. To realize that being in an assembly can't give you a feeling. So now you can put your hand up and answer a question. Like that then in their life will create change. And I think that's what I love. Like it's almost, I have no idea what's going to come to people's mind that's going to be helpful to them. But I do know that there's something about this conversation that seems to kind of spark insight and wisdom to pop up in people.
Seems to accelerate it somehow.
It's almost like as we get less attached to our character and our ego and what we think we know, there's more space for something new to come in. And I know Sid described it as, if you've got a bottle of stale wine, you have to pour something out to be able to get anything else in. Louise in.
No.
But this would be a good point to see if there's any questions
or
a direction people want to take it in.
Yeah, any questions, reflections, observations?
I feel like the language that you're using is a familiar one with for me, and so much of what you're saying just totally resonates. And I'm kind of thinking, how did I not come across this before? But I have, and I've come across it in different ways. I'm a Quaker, and that of, you know, that there is that of God, or however you want to call whatever you want to call God, is in everyone, is central, and that's what drew me to Quakerism. And yeah, I've so appreciated listening to you this evening, and it's sounds overly simplistic, but I do firmly believe that when the student's ready, the teacher appears, and I had no idea that I was going to be on this call tonight, or I'd, you know, literally just had a conversation at the end of a course on Thursday with Catherine, and she said, yeah, I'm going to give you a contact, and I just, sometimes you just have to believe that the path that you're following is going to lead you somewhere that's going to be tremendously rewarding, and it is. So thank you.
Oh, bless you, Nick.
Thank you.
Have you been to Fox's Pulpit yet?
So I go to Swarthmore meetings, so that was George Fox's meeting house. So yeah.
One time, no, I've been up there twice. The first time I went up to Fox's Pulpit is where, was it George Fox?
Yes.
Yeah, George Fox, who started the Quaker movement. He gave a talk to, was it 2,000 people or something?
Something like that, yeah.
How the hell he got 2,000 people onto the side of the moors on the Howgill Fells, I have got absolutely no idea. There's this tiny little graveyard next to Fox's Pulpit. Fox's Pulpit is a rock. And the first time I ever went up there with my mum, my dad, my sister, and my gran was sat in the car because she couldn't walk. And they said, oh, let's stop off and have a look at Fox's Pulpit. And we walked from the road up past the little graveyard with no church in it and a few yew trees in it. And as we were just walking up to it, music started playing, like pipe music, just this beautiful music just engulfed us all, and we all just froze, and we're looking at each other going, trying to find the source of this most beautiful music. And then it went, I have no idea. To this day, I have absolutely no idea what happened in that moment. But the most beautiful music played for about 10 seconds. It was long enough for us to kind of stand there in shock. Like, it wasn't my gran playing the music from the car. It was music that was with us. It was around us. It was a shared experience. It was a really, really beautiful thing. I really like the Quaker movement. I think it's beautiful. We do a lot of retreats we've done retreats in the Quaker house in Grasmere at Glenthorne. We love it. We love it.
It was lovely in the evenings because they would seat everyone at different tables, so that you would they'd like rotate people, and
couldn't get comfy, could you?
And yeah, and they're like just all sitting for a minute's silence before eating, and it was just really. And there's some lovely quotes also like around. We say it was like such a perfect place for a retreat because, and it felt very in alignment.
Yeah, and what I love about Quakerism, will that do? Quakerism is the movement, the allowance of the movement to take place within people. Now, I've never been to a meeting, but I believe people sit quietly until they feel moved to speak. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's like you see at that point, you could, if you were to go to, I get the impression if you were to go to a Quaker meeting, you would see what we're talking about in action, the power of thought, how within an individual there is this movement of thought that then becomes articulated. And that's what language is. That's what we speak. We speak our thoughts. That's what language is. You know, you are literally speaking, you are taking your inside world and putting it out into the world. You're sharing your inner world with the outside world. And that's the only way we can ever communicate. That's the only way. That's why we have language. The fact we have language is because we all live in separate realities. And we, at this present moment in time, we can't see into each other's realities. I don't know if that's going to change. I believe it will in coming years. I think we will start to wake up and have that capacity. I think that's coming for us all. But the fact that we have language is testament to the fact that we all literally live in separate realities, that we're all individualized waves of creator being, that endowed within us is all the power of God self, that is infinitely creative and has the capacity to create all reality. And so the reason we have this language is so that we can communicate between realities. And if it was true that reality was outside of us and we were merely observers of reality, we would never have found the need to develop language. We'd never have needed to do it because we'd all just see reality and there'd be nothing to talk about. I know you see what I see because we all see the same reality. But so much of the time, this is, if you look at the world at the moment and you see all the nonsense that's going on in it, it's all born from thought. People having thoughts. People in positions of power, which is really a thought anyway. It's only a position of power because it's believed to be a position of power. That individual is no more powerful than anybody else on earth. Not in true reality. King, queen, don't care who the hell you are. You are no more powerful in essence to anybody else on earth. Nobody is lower than anybody else on earth. Nobody's higher and nobody is lower. We're all equal. Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what the hell you think. It makes no odds. In essence, we're all the same. But we believe. And as we believe, it is done unto us as we believe. If we believe in a hierarchical power, then we will experience what it feels like to be suppressed. Or if we believe in a hierarchical power, we'll believe what it feels like to believe that there are people who are greater than us. You know, and this is kind of where the world's kind of coming to a bit of a crescendo point, I think, at the moment, whereby we have all these wars kicking off and coming to an end, hopefully, I don't know. But this is only created by the mind of man, by human beings' thoughts. And, you know, it's created from a delusion. It's created from the idea that the outside of me is something I need to fear. But fear is something we create inside ourselves. But it's created from that duality that I fear that, so I need to destroy it. I fear that group of people, so I must destroy them, I must tame them, I must encapsulate them, I must imprison them to keep me safe, so I feel safe. If you look, everything boils down to feelings. It all boils down to feelings. Do I feel safe? Do I feel safe? Do I feel powerful? Do I feel safe?
Got enough.
Have I got enough? Yeah. Am I enough? Am I enough? But you can see that if tomorrow morning that everybody just woke up and realized that they create their own experience of life and they are responsible for how they feel about everything. They feel like they feel about everything because of how they perceive it. Their feelings are a reflection of their perceptions. Their perceptions are created from how they think, the power of thought. A fluid energy. Thought is energy. I don't know what energy is. But thoughts are not physical things. They are potentials. They're potentials that are experienced within the being. You'll never run out of thoughts for the rest of your life. You will never run out of thoughts for the rest of your lives. Ever. You will infinitely create. This is the power of who and what we really are. But if tomorrow everybody woke up and took responsibility for their own feelings, and they couldn't blame them over there, suddenly you'd have a world that kind of stepped back. It would step back. And it would go, I'm responsible for this feeling. A humility would be born into the world, less ego. A humility would be born into this world, and an opportunity for people to think again would be born. Like, we've done a lot of work out in South Africa, you and I, haven't we? And
Good.
wait,
Doctor.
did you put the monitor on?
Yeah.
We've done a lot of work out in South Africa, and the lady there we met was crying her eyes out, saying the problem South Africa faces is too big. And we just said to her, it's not. It really, really isn't. You know, and we're at a soup kitchen with all these homeless people, 300 homeless people in Cape Town. And she says, it's only scratching the surface of the homelessness. I know, it's true. It really is true. We said, but the problem South Africa faces isn't actually big. It's tiny. We just said, look, we've said this before, but it was like, if you look at it from the point of view of land redistribution, wealth redistribution, opportunity redistribution, political redistribution, you know, you got, look at it from the outside point of view, the outside world point of view. Yeah, it looks astra-friggin-nomical what would need to be done. But if you go to the source of why is it like it is, why is South Africa one of the most divided countries on the planet, if not the most divided country on the planet? I don't know. Probably second to America right now. Why is it the most divided country on the planet? And you boil it down and you look at it, and it's because of the way people think about one another. It's created from thought. It's created from how people believe. And we saw that division collapse, bang, 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 left, right, and center, as people gained awareness into the nature of their own mind, into the nature of the fact that they create their own experience of life. Shit, the racism that I've carried was a thought. It was no more than a thought. It was no more than a belief. The idea of who you are as a white man or a white woman, or who you are as a black woman or a black man or a colored man or a colored woman. Those aren't racist terms. I got bollocked on a bloody American talk show for saying colored. You can't say colored. I said, but that's what they call themselves. And I said, I'm not going to do them the disrespect of calling them some woke name because you don't like it. I'm sorry. I'm going to call them what they call themselves. And that was that's what they did. That's how they describe themselves. Colored, Cape colored. And we saw it collapse left, right, and center, didn't we? And you can see that the world is as it is because of the way people think, but they don't know that's how it is. We feel the feelings. We're very aware of how we feel, but we've mislaid the source of the feeling. We've misinterpreted the feeling as being coming from, we've created false gods. We've created billions of false gods, billions of false things that create our experience of life. People, war, time, relationships, money, trees, weather, fuck knows what, houses. We've created all these false gods, false sources for our experience of life. Our experience of life is only born from one thing, and it's from ourself. It's from consciousness. It's from mind. And suddenly when that collapses down, when it collapses down, when all that collapses down and it's suddenly realized it's all mind, suddenly something takes place within an individual. They realize that if people are on these spiritual searches, you know, many people are on these spiritual searches, and I feel like it's something that's really growing in the world at the moment. People looking for reason, people looking for meaning, people looking for relief. They're seeking this spiritual thing, this spiritual experience, but very few people stop to think about life itself. Is life itself actually the spiritual experience I could be looking for? Is this very moment right here, right now, not the most sacred event? Is this not an inexplicable divine event right here, right now? This conversation, not my words, but the fact that we all get to be here in this conversation, we get to experience life. We get to think, we get to feel. Is this not the most magical, inexplicable, impossible for human beings to replicate event? It's a miracle. We're all a miracle. Every single last one of us is a fucking miracle. A miracle of beyond biblical proportions, beyond anything we can comprehend, because anything we comprehend is finite. It can be uncomprehended. It can be comprehended in a different way, but you can't. The source from which it emerges cannot, which means that we are never what we think we are. We are never stuck. We are never lacking. We are never broken. We're infinite source being. That realization, when that starts to take place within people, it reorientates the reality that they've lived in. It does all the heavy lifting. There's nothing you need to do, because you realize you are already it. You know, when people have a moment in the now, reason why Eckhart Tolle wrote The Power of Now is because he had a spiritual experience in the now. Well, you can only have a spiritual experience in the now because the now is all that actually exists. There is no such thing as time. Time is an illusion of thought. Time is memory and imagination. Thought, both of which are thought. They're both conjurings up within the mind. They're both illusions of the mind. But people have realized, they call them realized people who have realized the spiritual nature of life. They realize God. Where does a realization take place? It takes place within. It can't take place outside. You can't realize something outside of yourself. All realizations take place within. And it will always happen in the now. That's why, you know, becoming aware of the power of now is a really, really wonderful thing, because you start to bring your consciousness from the illusions into something that is heading in the right direction of truth. And it collapses all the struggle, because suffering is created from the illusion of time. If you look closely, suffering is created from the illusion of time. It's created from what happened or what might happen. It's where all our psychological suffering is born. Thoughts, 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 thought. Again, we don't want anybody to believe anything we're saying. Don't want anybody to believe anything. Just question it. Question it. Scrutinize the shit out of it if you want. Use this grey matter to scrutinize the shit out of it. Is there anything outside of you that can create an experience? Is there anything outside of you that can give you a feeling? Is there anything outside of you that can make you think in a certain way that determines how you think? I know they spend millions and billions on advertising each year. People spend millions and billions on advertising, trying to get into your consciousness, trying to please notice us, please notice us. Because first of all, in order to be experienced, you have to be noticed. Coca-Cola. Every friggin' where you see Coca-Cola. Millions, and there it is, look. I'm not like Wendy. We live in very different realities. I would never buy Coca-Cola. You love it. You love it. Now's a good time to talk about your crack habit as well, Wendy. Yeah.
Now's the time to talk about the fact that you and I shared crack in
No.
Coniston, so.
No! It was a good night though, wasn't it? Sat around the fire.
Don't say that word again, because otherwise YouTube will block you.
Oh, that's a good point. Which one was it?
Twice was okay, but third time, that's when they pick up on it.
Is it third strike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you say a particular word of that genre within the space of 5 minutes more than 3 times, it blocks the whole.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds like one of those horrible.
Unless your page is set up for 18+.
Yeah, I think we do, don't we?
Yeah, so it's not acceptable for
It's
trading.
acceptable for
No,
kids.
it's not acceptable for children.
Well, see, Dan just said
Thanks for the
that.
heads up, Dan.
Dan just said that, and my heart started to beat. So things outside of me can make me have an experience. I'm just saying.
Do you know what my experience of it was? It was like some mad film where if you say that 3 times, say it in the mirror 3 times, spin round or something like that.
You can't swear within the first, I think it's like first minute
Oh,
of a
really?
YouTube. Yeah, if you've got a YouTube channel and it's not settled for 18+, if you swear within the first minute, puts you on some kind of restriction, so you can't like monetize it or anything like that. Or
what's the difference between 1 minute and 2 minutes for a child?
no idea. Something to do with a YouTube bot. That's what I read.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Surprised any of our videos actually
What
make
the
it
hell
out
is
there
it?
then.
Yes, thanks for well done for finding us, anyone. Are we under the bot? Do you actually think we're under the bot? And with that, we're flying under the radar.
Maybe.
I think we're divinely looked after. Yeah. Kath, do you want to say something? You've unmuted.
Yeah, it's going back to what you said earlier on about how.
Don't say the C word.
No.
Oh.
It's how what you're thinking can create how you're feeling. Basically, what's going through your head creates your surrounding and exactly how you're feeling. And it's going back, oh gosh, when we first started looking into this way of thinking. And I can remember I was talking to you one night on one of these, and I'm probably going back 5 years or something like that. And I'd been talking about my mum, and my mum had died. She'd had Alzheimer's. You have to bear with me if you've heard this before, but I know most of you haven't on here. When my mum were, I think it's the night before she died, I was laid with her. I'd got her in my arms. You know, when you get to the stage where you're virtually unconscious, but if you touch them or something, they'll respond, but they're like they're unconscious. Well, that's how my mum was. Well, my mum had Alzheimer's, but she was end stage with cancer, but she did have Alzheimer's. And I was laid with her, and the nurse was there, the Macmillan nurses, who were wonderful. I have to give them that, wonderful. They were in, and they came to turn her. And when they turned her, they disturbed her, and she woke up startled. So she was here. She was literally here. That's far away from me, 6 inches, because she was in my arms here, and she'd been unconscious as I sent to be, and then she just woke up suddenly because the nurses turned her, they startled her, and she opened her eyes, and the look in her eyes, because she had Alzheimer's, it was fear, shock. Where am I? This is all in a split second. I saw it all, and I was literally 6 inches away from her, looking at her in her eyes. And I got all this, it's like shock, fear, where am I? Who are you? And then I saw recognition, and then she relaxed, and then I saw love, and she closed her eyes. Now, for a couple of years, I'd been tormented with, because she'd got Alzheimer's, and I just knew her as this lady this wonderful woman who was my mum, who had gone from being a confident woman to being nervous and everything, and anxious. So I just remembered this shock and anxiety and fear in her eyes. And then when I was, for a couple of years before I was speaking to you on here, I'd been really, really unsettled about my mum. Even though she died, is she okay? Where is she? Is she okay? And I couldn't settle my mind to my mum being okay. I was worried about her. I know she died, might sound daft, but I worried about her. Is she okay? So I'd had a couple of years of this. Is my mum okay? One conversation on here, and it was, you pointed out to me then that even though I'd been worrying and creating all this upset for myself with my thoughts, is she okay? And then you pointed out to me that the last thing that I saw with my mum was the recognition, and then love. Then she closed her eyes. So the last thing that my mum saw before she died was me. She absolutely idolized me. The last thing that she saw was me and love. And she died with love, looking at me, who she adored. And so I'd spent all this time worrying, is she okay? But in actual fact, she died full of love for me, and I'd never realized. So since then, I completely relaxed. I knew that she were okay, and it just totally changed the way that I felt. So just one conversation and a different way of thinking about something completely changed how I felt, and I felt fine about it ever since. But it's just showing that you can create all this torment just by how you're thinking.
Correct. And you can also change the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You can also change your past by discovering something new in the now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Suddenly everything starts to look different. I remember a lady came to work with us, didn't she? And one of the things she spoke about was how her father was suffering when he died.
Yeah, he took his own life, so she always presumed he was suffering.
Yeah.
But she'd never, and then she said she's never going to know the actual truth, but she said what occurred to her is actually in his life he'd suffered a lot, and actually he might have been at peace, and she just saw it differently. And she said suddenly this thing that had bothered her, and she'd always felt like my dad died in a horrible space and he was suffering. She said actually that probably was his way of ending his suffering. That's the only thing that he could think of, but she saw it totally differently.
Yeah, and she realized she didn't know, didn't she?
Yeah.
She said, I don't know. But she thought she knew. She thought she was right.
I did. Well, I didn't think I knew. I didn't know. And I was tormented because I didn't know, when actually I just not thought. It was just the way I was thinking about it. I just wanted to just share that.
No, appreciate that, love.
And thank you.
Thank you, Kat. it's fascinating how we kind of have seen death as the bad guy. You know, birth, good guy. Death, bad guy. You know, but I don't know. I talk about it, but in my experience, you can't experience anything but love when you leave. There is nothing but love. And the interesting thing is there's no story. There's no story of Dave or any of us. There's no story. There's no character in it. But you discover the essence of life, what life really is. I mean, if you look at what love is, what are the attributes of love? Well, they bring people together. They unify. Love unifies people. Well, unify, the word unify is a singular word. It's uni, one. Love is the unifying force of the universe. It's how whatever creates the universe feels. And I know within myself, I have no idea what love is. I know what it feels like, and I've experienced it to depths that I never even thought I could possibly imagine. But I don't know what it is. I know it's a realer state of being than this reality I'm in right now. It's a more true state of being than this reality I'm in right now. And the further we go into suffering, the further we go into the illusion that is still love, but it's an illusion within love, and we're more lost in the illusion. We think suffering is more real than love, and that can kind of create some kind of heady thing where I need to compare the two. No, it's not about that. It's not about weighing up the two or balancing the two out. One's real and one's illusion. Suffering is us getting more lost in the illusion. But that's when we really start to take life seriously. That's when we really start to kick in deep and go, fucking hell, I need to do something.
I think it's more true.
Yeah, and we think it's more true. We think if we're in suffering, it's more in alignment with true reality. No, the fact of the matter is true reality is more in alignment with love, whatever that love is. Because love is life. I remember speaking to Crystal, who's on here now, and we're having this conversation, and I don't think you mind me saying this, but you're not come back on yet to give me bollocking. I'm going to say it. But we're having this kind of conversation one time, and I just saw her face relax. And I start to smile, and a stillness come over her where she wasn't moving. And I said, right now, how do you feel? And she just went, feel really good. Okay, I said, are you stressing about your future now? And she's like, no. Were you condoning yourself for your past? No. So there's no, what were you thinking about? I wasn't. I was just listening. I said, all right, okay. I said, well, that is you present in life. And that's what being present in life feels like. That's what life itself feels like. Life itself feels beautiful.
We did it when we were in South Africa, and there was that young girl at the refugee centre we were working in, and we spoke about how, you know, your past can't make you feel something now, and how
Godel's.
Yeah, and your circumstance can't make you feel something now. And then she just said, yes, because actually, even when she was back in her country, when there was all of this war going on, she said, when I used to sing, she said, I used to just get filled with this beautiful feeling. And she said, and I'd come alive with it. So she'd be surrounded by like just awfulness. And her whole family, there's about 16 of them in the family. There was loads of these kids with the two parents, and they'd fled this country, and that we heard all these stories. And she realized that for her, when she sang, she came alive with that feeling, and so it was something that had got her through some of the hardest times. And she was seeing that feeling wasn't even necessarily coming from the singing. It was just like she was just getting present, and singing
Creating.
helped her become present.
Mm.
So it was despite all of the other stuff and all of the things going on, and I think they were about to move on again because
They were, yeah.
we didn't know if we weren't sure if the
They moved them whilst we were there, didn't they?
no, they were moving on. Just they missed the last day because they had to move on. But I just loved the expression on her face when she realised that that's something she had within her. That beautiful feeling existed within her, and it wasn't dependent on anything. And when we see that more and more and more and more, we don't give up our good feeling for as many things as we used to.
Mm.
And I think we've said at times, God, you can get really lazy with this. You can get into old habits or patterns, and it's quite nice when you catch yourself and say, wow, I'm getting lost in that again. Wow, I'm getting caught up in that again. But I think when you get a sense of that feeling and that space that you can live in, I don't know, you get less tolerant of the other. So actually, I don't want to live there. It's a nice wake up because it's present for us. We are present. It exists. That's what exists. It's our imagination that takes us out of it.
Mhm.
But our imagination can also take us in some incredible places. So it's not an enemy, but like we always say, your sister got really excited about coming to California with us, and she was there and we were doing this, and then she ended up not being able to come. But she's like, oh, I'm so grateful. This day, I've absolutely loved thinking that I was coming to California with you.
Yeah,
It's
thank
been
you for the
brilliant.
excitement, she was saying.
There's no like disappointment in it. She was just like, oh, it's such a cool day thinking that. So it's like it's a beautiful thing that we have to imagine and to think and to create. And you just start seeing, oh, when do I use it against myself? When do I use it for myself? Like, is there any movement in this? Is there anything else? I feel like we just get less fixed, less held in, and more open to what else?
Mm.
What else? What other potential could exist?
Yeah.
Like, if you know it's not true, it's not, you think it's real, it's not real. If we think something's real, we're more likely to be afraid of it. So, like Lucia keeps asking us about, she's listened to The Lion King. She wants to know now if Scar, the not very nice brother, is he real? And Mufasa, who's the brother that gets killed, she's like, but will he come back to life again? So trying to explain to her, these are characters, these are stories that came. But you can see, like, when she starts seeing it as a story, she's less bothered. But when she gets really into the story, she gets really scared and like has to like cuddle up. And so the more real we think something is, the more afraid of it we are. So the principles allows us to see that our creations are not real, they're potentials.
Similar
So
to a dream, isn't it?
Well, it is a dream.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
Yeah.
like a
So
it's a
like,
daydream.
like in a dream when you wake up from a nightmare, and you wake up and you go, oh God, it was just a nightmare. Thank God it was just a nightmare. You know, but it is the same force in action during the nighttime sleep state as what it is in the awake daytime state. The nocturnal state and the diurnal state are the same state. It's consciousness, thought, creating experience. So that's why the mystics have called life the dream of life, because we're all dreaming a different reality. And every single one of us is convinced by our dream that we're accurate and we're true and we're real. It's true. But it's like then some point in your life, you get the opportunity to question it and go, is that actually, have I been fooling myself? Have I been fooling myself? Have I been doing this to myself unwittingly? And you get the opportunity to awaken. And that's why I think people call it awakening. You get to awaken within the diurnal state. You get to awake. Whilst you're awake, you get to wake up and see your own dream state, thought created illusory realities. There is no difference between the nocturnal and the diurnal state of consciousness, other than the senses are enlivened, so we think it's more real. It's the same mechanism in action.
It's funny when you start to see it, because and I mean, my sister talk about our childhood in completely different ways. It's like we had two different parents, and in a way we did, because my relationship with them was very different, and the way that I remember them is very different. But my version looks real, and her version looks real. So I don't bother arguing with each other about it. I know that she saw it completely different to me. and
Did
I
you
think-
used to?
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. I'd try and like defend them and say how great they were. And she's like, but don't you remember when this happened? And like she's written a chapter for a book, and my mum said it was really funny to read because that's not my mum's experience of my sister's life. So to her, it seems strange that she thought it was beautiful writing, but it felt strange because for my mum, she's like, but that's not my reality. What are you talking about? That's not how it happened. That's not how we treated you. That's not. And you can see why we can get into conflict when we think what we see is true and real. That the problem we face is that is the only way we get to experience life. That the principles bring forth reality through us and it looks real. So if we don't question it, then of course we're going to get in arguments because we think, well, you need to see the real, you need to see the truth. I'm seeing it right. You need to see it. You need to see how I'm seeing it because I'm seeing it right. So when you realize that's not true, it takes a lot off our minds. I don't have to convince you of my reality.
The
You
amount of
don't-
times we just go, we're just going to agree to disagree.
We just see this.
Well, actually, it's only really one or two subjects, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But those
go
one or
round
two
in
subjects
circles.
we go round and round in circles with. Like,
But it's nice if suddenly go, oh, actually, we're probably not going to
we
see
just
this the
see it
same.
differently.
Like, and I can't see it how you see
No,
it.
it
and
blows my mind the way I think you think it, where I think you,
the way you
where I
think I
think
think.
you think, where I think you see it. Oh, fuck knows. You're mental.
I like it now though, because Lucia always agrees with me.
Does
She
she?
always tells you off. She's like, no, Daddy, why Mummy didn't say that. That's not how it happened. And I'm like, yeah.
Daddy, they're not called raspberries, they're called raspberries. You're grounded till you're 18.
Speaks properly.
She does not speak properly. One day she might.
She does say sure,
Does she say sure?
sure.
Good.
A little bit of Cumbrian.
See Beck's nodding there. Good girl. Good girl. Does anybody want to say anything? Any comments? Any questions? Any reflections? Any observations? Got a few minutes left. It's nice when you start to know as well, you just can't get life wrong. Cheers, Carl. It's nice to know you can't get life wrong.
What was it? What was it that Gordell says? You are the boss.
Don't know. You remember that, Dan? What was
Yeah,
it?
that's what he said. You are the boss.
You are the boss.
Even if you feel like poo, you're in charge of that, so you can decide if you want to feel like poo or not. Even though it's easier said than done sometimes, but you are the boss.
The thing is, you carry your awareness with you. Once you become aware of it, you carry it with you. You carry it up and you carry it down. Like there's this part of you that rather than being nose to tail with it, with your reality, there's this space that grows in between. And there's this part of you that goes, yeah, I know I feel like this right now. But I know it's temporary. You know, all experiences are temporary. Look back at your own life. Look at that hardest time you never thought you were going to get through. Time you thought it was going to break you. How can I possibly ever recover from this? And yet here we are. Unbroken. Not broken. Not damaged. still creating experience. When
Yeah, just what you said just there. That's one of my absolute favorite realizations in my whole 67 years on the planet, is that I have lived through 100% of every negative thing that has ever occurred in my life. Every illness, every broken bone, which I haven't had any, every
every gunshot
difficulty,
wound, yeah,
all the gunshot wounds that have happened. Yes, everything. Yes. Yeah, all the whatever. Yeah, everything. There's just nothing that has ultimately taken me out. And there will be something that will take me out, but by that point I won't. That will be my time and my day, and I'll be, food for the worms, which is fine. But I just really love that when we just look at that, we are all, everybody on this call, everybody everywhere, anywhere, is 100% resilient. Period, full stop, end of story. I just, as a nurse, I really, really love that. That
Mm.
absolute truth is indisputable. You can say, yeah, but I limp now because of that broken bone, or yeah, but I have chronic headaches or whatever. But if you're sitting on a Zoom call, speaking deep thoughts with Dave and Jenny, then okay, it hasn't taken you out of the game.
Is it? And even when we did a talk in Munden quite recently, there was a lady that with Lyme's disease, and she was asking about physical health and the mind, and what she took away from it was her physical illness doesn't dictate how she doesn't take out her joy. She can still experience joy, she can still experience gratitude, she can still experience all the wonderful feelings, because the physical illness doesn't have the power to determine how she perceives.
We've had a friend actually who's just, Joe will know more about this, but he's just done a 10-day Vipassana. And he said it was interesting because he learned that he could sit with physical pain and not move and just allow it to be, and sometimes feel into it, sometimes move away from it. But he said at times he just wanted to like run away and leave, and other times he was enjoying it. He said it seemed every odd numbered day he wanted to leave, but he said that the reflections and kind of what he's come away with since, he's only been out like a week or something, but he just said it is interesting when you start to see it as sensation rather than seeing it with a judgment of pain being bad. He said it was interesting, the movement in consciousness of all of that, and what an exploration it was. But I think there's a lady who I think we spoke about her a few weeks ago. I can never pronounce her second name, but she was called Wendy, and she lived with stage 4 cancer for a lot longer than they thought she would. And she spoke about how having this understanding didn't heal her cancer, because she knows that there is a way that sometimes a shift in consciousness can heal us physically. But she said she didn't have that as a goal, but she was open to it. But it did allow her to live with love and peace and joy and patience and presence with where she was at. And she spoke about it so beautifully at one of the big conferences. She sort of had the room in tears.
That was amazing. That I remember that, hearing that.
But I think
Sagacey.
Casey. Yeah, she was an amazing, amazing lady. And there's so many people that we listen to and have stories of who speak about how there isn't anything that can take away
There's evidence of it, aren't there?
our ability or our power to experience beautiful feelings.
There is nothing outside of us that creates our feelings. I think the thing that blew me away about our friend that went away in the Vipassana, we saw him, was it 3 days after? He still hadn't had a wank. That lad loves a wank. That blew my mind. When I heard he hadn't had a wank, I was like, that must
He
be
said it
something
3
special.
times now.
I said it 3 times in the. No, it's not within the first minute.
No, it's still 3 times. You might watch this.
I hope he does. I hope he does. Honestly, that blew my mind. But it was one of our first questions, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't my first question. It was your first question.
Was it? Did you have a whack?
Who's in the door?
Wouldn't stop him. You know that wouldn't stop him.
Oh my god. On that lovely note,
It's at 9 o'clock.
it is.
God, you can't really put out. Do you want to give us a donation now? Why did you make me do that?
I can't believe you just said it. I saw you smirked when I was talking about it. I think you've got worse since you've had a child because
Do you think?
you have to behave more of the time
Yeah.
when she's awake. And I feel like when she
Done
goes to
really-
sleep,
I've done really well, haven't I? Been really good. All right. Anybody like to say anything? Sorry, Nick. It's not normally this professional. Quite a night. All right. Next Monday, we'll be here. All being well, we assume. We hope. That's the plan. What's the date next Monday?
look,
Whilst Jan's doing that. Yeah, if anybody wishes to make a donation, look in the link if you're still here. Look in the description below, and there's means by which to make a donation.
27th
It's the 27th next week
October.
of October. So yeah, we will be here, all being well. Thank you all so much for being here. Rach, hope we haven't put Nick, hope we haven't put you off. And Rach. Thanks, Rach. Is this and Neil? Sorry, you lot. Everybody else is kind of
Used to you.
yeah, they're kind of brow battered down into it, aren't they? Thank you all so much for being here. Yeah, all wonderful, 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 wonderful people. Hope you've enjoyed tonight. We have. And sending you all so much love. God bless.